Welcome to a football show, Monday edition here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. That is Paul Kuharsky. I am Braden Gall. Good to see you. We've got lots of Titans practice reports to talk about. Apologies about the backup technology and microphone. I will blame myself entirely, PK.
I blame you as well.
Quality. As is tradition.
I also don't think the tweet necessarily came across. So, there.
No, I shared it already.
It was late.
I love it. I do love it when you live produce the show. It's my favorite.
You're welcome.
Good. First of all, thank you to you and to Nick and to Jared for hanging out last week as I took my family down to some much needed rest and relaxation on the Gulf Coast. Got to eat a lot of raw oysters and relax and read books and watch my Knicks, which we'll discuss a little bit later on, as well as some World Cup stuff. But I want to say thank you to all of you for hanging out and for helping out. And it was a lot of fun listening to you and Jared argue. And then the show just continued today on the sidelines. It was great.
He's normal when he's on with me, which I think suggests who the alpha is and who controls the tone and tempo.
Wouldn't the alpha not need to talk about who the alpha is?
After the fact. I'm talking about it after the fact. I'm not talking about during the fact.
I mean, the fact that he is willing to adapt out of respect for you and I's process on this show, don't you think that's him being like very masculine, you know?
Of the things I worry about with Stillman, I mean, I think he's masculine. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I could. Yeah, don't take me there.
Speaking of Jared, says Belvis. I like that, Belvis. Speaking of Jared, Cam is a bust, according to him, which we will discuss today, which he talked about a lot on his show today. So make sure you check out Stillman and Company across all the platforms in his YouTube page as well.
It's June 8th.
That is that's a number one big point that we will drive home, is that it is, in fact, June 8th. Football. Go forth. Good day, gents. Good to see you as well. Cam gets to practice against a good defense for once, says Retra. I don't know if I'm there yet because, A, we don't know if the starting Tennessee Titans defense will be good, and B, there's still not a lot of the starting defensive players available on practice. Now, today, for some parameters, there was no media availability, so there was no conversation with coordinators or Robert Saleh or any players after the fact. This was purely the Titans added a couple of days of practice Monday and Tuesday, and they said, hey, y'all come out and watch, and that'll be the end of it. And that was nice of them, I suppose. But we got to see Mitch Trubisky. We got to see Jermaine Johnson, a few players out there for the first time, which we'll discuss a little bit later. I do think Trubisky very quickly in practice, I think, made at least one topic on this show, something I wanted to discuss with all of you. So we'll get into that as well. And Calvin Ridley, I know you wrote about this on paulkuharsky.com. Make sure you go subscribe, pay for good journalism. And I know Calvin Ridley ahead of schedule, at least in your eyes, so we'll discuss him. But a lot of today's focus is going to be on Cam Ward. And look, he had a bad day at practice on Monday in terms of accuracy through an interception. Again, we'll discuss the Mitch Trubisky of it all and the Will Levis of it all. But I think the main topic is sort of Ward having a bad day at practice at OTAs in June in a new system with new receivers in a situation that's not really football yet. It's not quite there. Obviously, no pads, etc. So the one of the questions is sort of, what does it tell you? What does it mean? Does it matter? How do you react to a poor day at practice that's just a regular old day in June, PK, but also is an issue, and this I think is Jared's point in general, is that the issues we saw were the issues with Cam Ward last year to some degree, at least the first half of the season, not as much in the second half of the season, where his completion percentage went up, I think, six points in the second half. So I think the question is sort of, what does it mean to you? And then I'll have a follow-up for when can we start writing definitive stories about Cam Ward, down the road.
Well, he was 8 of 17 or 9 of 18, something like that today. He threw several balls away. I wrote about one. Not all completions are the same. You and I watched it together. Made a good throw to Alec Isle Manor in the front right of the end zone, kind of coming back and going left to right. And Isle Manor didn't make the most of the catch. He didn't get his back foot down, which I think we all think he could have and should have. And so that turns a touchdown into an incompletion, which, is a pretty big swing in practice stats for the day. Um, it's not a story now. Look, if his completion percentage hadn't gone up 5 points, so through 9 games, it was, I don't have it in front of me,
I think it's
but
57 and a half, something like that.
57-ish,
Yeah.
and then in the last 8 games, it was up 5 points, 62 something. That's that 5-point gain in the second half of your rookie season is not nothing. Accuracy is hard to build. And I should point out, and I think this is really important, his average yards per attempt were roughly the same, very, very close to the same, like 6 and 5.8. Not a difference that said you say, well, he was throwing safer passes and they were being more careful with him. Thus, his completion percentage went up. A lot of times, if a guy's struggling with completion percentage, you start taking more checkdowns, you start throwing more safe stuff, and the completion percentage shoots up. That's not what happened with him. All right. I don't believe guys get, a lot better at completion percentage. I don't believe if he becomes a good quarterback, which I think he can be, that it's going to be because he's a completion percentage guy, that, he's become one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league. I don't think he'll be a top 10, top 15 guy in that category. But I don't think on June 8th, 2026, you say, oh, well, he had bad practice today. That's the clincher for me. He's not going to be accurate, right? You knew he wasn't an accurate guy. He's not going to be an accurate guy. You hope they can maximize his accuracy through what they call the style of offense they put in that plays to his strengths. And it's going to be something that we track. Hopefully this year they can get it up a couple more points. And then, when he's a complete product in year 4, let's say, he's established himself as a 65%, 66% guy, and you can win with that. Teams have in the past. I could do some more research on it. I don't think he's going to improve like Josh Allen improved. And I think, he's a shot taker. If it becomes more of a shot maker, people will take that.
I just pulled up Baker Mayfield just for the sake of it, because that's the guy I've kind of stuck with in terms of the comparison size and sort of stylistically. And he kind of came, look, he played 14 games as a rookie, 63.8%. I think that's right about where Cam finished. He regressed as a second-year player, 59% completion percentage. He then jumped back to 63, back-to-back seasons at 60 and 60. Now, keep in mind, these are Cleveland teams that were getting worse. He had, that 11-win season was his third year, 63%. Then it gets worse. He goes to Carolina and for the Rams, and then he comes back to Tampa in his first year, 64%. And this is the anomaly with Baker Mayfield. 71% completion percentage 2 years ago. He went back down to 63 last season. I'm with you. I
think you can win with Baker Mayfield. I think we both agree
100%,
with that.
100%.
I think Tampa Bay's failed to maximize. I think they should have changed coach, but I think that's a talented team that is better than its record has been. That's got a solid roster and a quarterback you could win with.
Well, and I struggle with this because a lot of times I want to ask you as a reporter to say, when do you feel comfortable writing X, Y, or Z story, right? Whether it's a training camp story, whether it's an offseason story, I lean on your sort of perspective on, well, I've seen this enough now that I think it's a thing and we need to write about it, talk about it, make it a thing, understand it more, right? And I don't, at the end of the day, like if Cam Ward is a 59% completion guy, hit every season of his career, he's probably not going to be a great quarterback, and the Titans are probably looking for a new quarterback in sometime in the next 4 to 5 years. If he's 63 or 64, I've gotten to the point where I don't really care what the number is specifically if the team is consistently winning football games. If he is putting the team in a position to be successful, to compete for playoff spots, to compete in the fourth quarter, the numbers, 195 yards versus 262 yards. Like, there's probably a point where those numbers do indicate success or failure on the ends of the spectrum. But at the end of the day, I really don't care. But I agree with you. I don't think you can go from 58% guy to Drew Brees. That is something you were born with. You can't go from a 92 mile an hour fastball thrower to 100-mile-an-hour fastball thrower. You can add a couple of miles an hour. You can't go from a 71% free throw shooter to a 93% free throw shooter. You can add 5 to 8% to your free. You can get better, you can improve, but you can't become a different type of player at that thing. And accuracy normally is one of those things. I think you can add 4 to 6 points to your completion percentage, which he did in one season on a bad team with no NFL starting receivers really, and a coach and a system that confined him for most of his rookie season to check down, A, B, C. And I just don't think we're there yet. I don't think we can make a decision or a judgment on what he is or what he's going to be.
No, and let's look at a couple spots where they can find a couple points easily, right? I think one thing is short stuff. He's got to be more accurate, right? You got to hit the running back in a spot where not only he can catch the ball, but where he's in position to run with the ball. Yeah, you have to hit Tajay Spears accurately and set him up. And so today we saw a few that were just not good enough to running backs to check downs. And that has to be precise, right? So your completion percentage short has to be good. Most short stuff is either quick or check downs. And those two things, there's no reason to be as imprecise as he was today, certainly. And another thing is, look, there are, throwaways are a good thing, right? If they're in throwaway situations, that's fine with me. They had a lot of drops last year, and I'm not letting them off the hook. I want them to be more accurate. They had a lot of drops last year. Wan'Dale Robinson and Tate are known as guys who don't drop the ball. That's a gain for him. They should not be dropping as many passes as they did last year, where they dropped far too many passes. Now, there's going to be a certain amount of drops, right? But I think there are some balls that Cam Ward threw last year. I think they had 19 drops. Now, are a couple of those guys getting their hands on balls that weren't catchable? Yeah, probably. But I think drops are counted pretty fairly by everybody that counts them as a stat. And I think it's got to be a pretty catchable ball. And when you've got guys, Ridley, and who else was dropping them last year? Tyler Lockett, Isle Manor went through a stretch where he wasn't doing things well. I mean, the standard just was not high enough in that room. And we know they didn't have good enough players. Robinson, say what you will about him, should take care of that slot position and be pretty reliable. And he's got good hands. And they drafted number 4, Carnell Tate, largely because he is a not just go get the ball guy, but take the ball away from people sometimes guy. That should help his completion percentage. So if he gets a couple points just out of that and gets more accurate, I think you see that reflected. Things making him more accurate that aren't even him throwing the ball more accurately there in that instance.
Right. Yeah. Contested catches, short yardage. Those are two big ones, right? Where we expect this team to be better at both those things. Yes, Caden, the primary microphone is out of order today. So using the backup tech, I do apologize to all of you guys out there.
Show them the tin can.
Ed Henry says, I think it's win that matters. If he's in the 60s in the fourth quarter, that's what matters. Much like McNair, whose percentage went up in clutch moments. I don't actually have those numbers, so I don't know what Steve McNair's completion percentage was. I think it's fair to ask, says Brandon, the question too, if he makes a major jump on offense and Dayball takes a job, what will he look like in a third system?
Well, they're not going to change system is the thing. I mean, if Dayball's system is successful enough to get Dayball another job, somebody that's on the staff right now, or somebody that was connected to Dayball somewhere else, which is not going to happen because they would go with Dayball if they're free. But somebody from this system will be running that system if that system effectively gets Brian another job.
I think that's fair. Johnny said, well, I think the question, I do think the system question is an interesting one. It's harder to explain. He didn't change systems in the middle of the year last year as a rookie, but I think the three things working against him are he's a rookie. He doesn't have Calvin Ridley gets hurt right away, and the receiving core is largely a minor league receiving core, for lack of a better term. And that he had 2 different head coaches with multiple play callers, all of whom were trying to confine the thing that made him special as a player, which is not improv and craziness, not like out of control, but just the ability to be a playmaker a little bit outside of the confines. We're going to build a system that bakes the playmaking into the system. And I think that's the difference. They were trying to put him into a box, for lack of a better term, last year. And I don't. My question isn't, or my statement isn't, that like Jared or any critics are wrong about Cam Ward. We may all learn that he's not the answer, and he's not good enough to be the starting quarterback for the Titans. And that is what it is, and that will lead to a lot of conversation about a lot of people and the future and everything else. But we don't have an answer, certainly not in a June practice. I don't think it's a fair shake to look at Cam Ward last year and to look at the numbers, look at the percentages, look at the situation, and just say that's who he is. And so I don't think we automatically know that this is going to be better. You were asked in your mailbag about, if this team doesn't take steps, I'm going to paraphrase here. If this team doesn't take steps, if they don't succeed, if they don't realize their potential, what's going to be the primary reason? And it's like people are looking for other things on the team that give, like, no, it's the offensive line. No, it's the secondary. Things with questions, right? Robert Saleh, front office, depth of the roster, whatever. At the end of the day, it's Cam Ward. If Cam Ward is really good, they're going to be good. If he's not really good, they're not going to be really good. And that's kind of it.
People are over presuming, out of the happy days of spring and now summer that are not yet summer, are over presuming that because the arrow's up, that the arrow's like straight up. I mean, Cam's got a lot to prove still. And that's the number one question about this team. Now, all those other questions, I mean, Dayball and Saleh and all that stuff are perfectly fair, but they all point back to the quarterback. The quarterback's the number one thing, the number one question you have to answer. And that's still the number one question the Titans have to answer. And that's why when people ask me what success looks like this year, I say success this year is absolutely knowing that next year Cam Ward's your quarterback and there's no question about it. And you're going into year 3 with the arrow up, confident he's your guy, having proven it, with no thought in the back of your head like, hey, this might not work. And we might be looking next year and starting to know, like we started to know with Marcus Mariota, and like we already knew with Jake Locker, and that we need to circle back on this.
What's so funny about that, because I feel that way all the time too. It's like in an era of social media disagreement where we all have confirmation bias because our own algorithm shows us what we want to hear. If you're an anti-Cam Ward person, you might have a more anti-Cam Ward algo than somebody who's pro-Cam Ward, which is a crazy place for us all to exist online. But at the end of the day, the thing that I start to like define, to your point, like we just know, it's when we all wake up on Monday morning and everyone agrees on what they saw. We wake up after a game and we all go, that was a special performance by a really good player. He doesn't have to be Joe Burrow. He doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have to be Josh Allen. But we all wake up on Monday morning and the Titans have a win, and we look at each other and we all just go, that was a hell of a performance by a really good player. And there's no arguing about it. There's no debate. There's no context. There's no parsing the third quarter or they had 2 safeties that were injured. It's none of that garbage. It's just like, that was a really good game by Cam Ward. And they need
I would take it a step further. That feeling is united, and an expectation that he will perform in a similar fashion the next week. Right. It comes with it.
And really what I mean is like more of those than not those.
Yeah.
Right. Like you lose a game. That's right. You lose a game. It's clearly not Cam Ward. You win a game. It's maybe because of Cam Ward. Like that's how it needs to feel when everybody wakes up in the morning. And I do think, again, the context of all of this is, let me go back and ask you this. I think some of these statements are facts, but I know that's a word that we can't all agree on sometimes. So I want you to kind of help me out with it. Like, Robert Saleh is factually a better football coach than Brian Callahan. I think we can agree on that, correct? Is that just a fact, or?
I think it's a fact, but his win-loss record doesn't say it by a whole lot.
But still better, factually speaking. Is the receiving core and the skill position weapons around Cam Ward, if healthy, asterisk, factually better than they were last year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the guys who are towards the front of the line, like DK and Isle Manor, are a year more experienced and a little bit down the pecking order behind guys who are better than them. Whether you like Wan'Dale Robinson as a big signing or not, he's a better player than they are, who's had better results. And whether you liked the draft talent or not, Tate was the best receiver in the draft.
Brian Daboll, safe to say, factually speaking, he has been a far more successful offensive coordinator, far more knowledgeable, talented at doing that job than anybody that was doing that last year.
Yeah. Better than
Okay.
Callahan and better than Hardegree, for sure.
Look, we don't know about the offensive line or the running game. I think it's fair to say that those are, we think they might be as good or maybe a little bit better. I'm not there yet on that. But outside of that, the supporting cast, the coaching staff, and oh, by the way, factually speaking, Cam Ward has experience in the NFL. He's played 17 games. He's no longer a rookie. Those are just facts. It doesn't mean it's going to lead to Cam Ward being better. But I don't think we are anywhere close to confirming the people who negatively felt the way they did about Cam Ward as a prospect. And when you cite stats, as Jared likes to do, about 31st rated quarterback rating, and first half of the season he was the worst quarterback in the league, and like all this other stuff, inaccuracy is still a problem. I don't think we just can't say definitively one way or the other yet. I think he's in a better position.
He was bad for a lot of last year. There are quarterbacks who have had bad rookie seasons who have turned out to be good quarterbacks. I think it's ridiculous to dismiss virtually anyone who was highly drafted after one season at any position.
I think that's fair. I thought you had more to say on them. I do want to take some time to dig into quarterbacks because on an accuracy percentage standpoint, I'd love to see a guy like that was 62 went up to 68 for his career. I'd like to dig into finding that, and I think I don't have that readily available after practice today. So there are certain guys that I'd like to see who actually made that kind of progress. Famously Peyton Manning, of course, led the league in interceptions and set the record for interceptions and all this other stuff, and went on to be great. I do think we can say definitively that Cam Ward is not going to be one of the elite guys in the league, that he's not going to be one of the top 3 to 5 guys in the league. If you're talking about, again, Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson. But I don't think there's any way to know what his ultimate steady, consistent delivery is going to be as a quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he was given an opportunity with his environment last year. And I think this year that environment is significantly better. And so he has a lot fewer excuses this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think, again, there are a lot of interesting conversations to be had about this, but to be conclusive on anything requires some patience. And you started to ask me when you were saying, like, you're curious about my timeline as a journalist on some of these things. I would say halfway into this season, 8 or 9 games, we should be able to, like, comfortably feel like we know what he is, or there's a reason that we're not going to know what he is for a longer period of time, right?
Yeah.
And by the end of this year, we should have a very strong feeling as to whether or not he's the guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think that's a reasonable. I still think it's a little fast, but in the NFL circa 2026, that's a reasonable timetable. Now, it might be too fast for some guys,
So here's an interesting comparison. And I don't remember what happened in his second season. So I think we might have to lump the first 2 seasons together. So Matthew Stafford, #1 overall pick, huge arm, lots of talent. Played 10 games his rookie year, 2-8 as a starting quarterback, 3 games his second season. So he won 3 of his first 13 games as a starting quarterback, 53% completion percentage his first year, 59% his second year, 19 total touchdowns, 21 interceptions. That is his first 2 full seasons in the NFL. Won 3 games, more interceptions than touchdowns, around a 55% completion percentage. He has been consistently at 64% the rest of his career for the next 12 to 13 seasons. And again, this is why I thought about this. The Detroit Lions were consistently winning more football games immediately after that. After his first 2 seasons, where he only played, again, granted, only played 13 games, immediately they won 10 games the next year. Then they get bad again, right? They go 4 wins, 7 wins, but then they go to 11 wins. He's on a bad franchise, number one pick. There are some comparisons, right? Situationally, there's some comparisons. And his numbers got better, and the team was more competitive, more weekends. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about. Like
I
the
think if
team
you're
looked.
being, I think I love that example, but I think if you're being devil's advocate, and I'm not fully in this seat, but I could see this counter argument, and I could write this. So Stafford, and there's been some effective stuff online. I don't know who the guy is that said it, the guy with the big beard who had a somewhat viral reel that went out that said, when it comes to quarterbacks, I need a defining trait, a defining trait. I don't think he was talking about Ward. I think he was talking about somebody else, but people were passing this around with the Ward being the context, and saying like, what's Ward's defining trait? Now I would say that quick release, but is the quick release enough of a defining trait? Stafford is a supremely gifted deep ball thrower, right? And as being a supremely gifted deep ball thrower, you would expect the completion percentage to be down. If that's your thing, you could be really good at that, but still your completion percentage is going to be lower, throwing 30, 40 yards down the field, 20, than it is if you're, in a West Coast offense, throwing short, hitting slants and move the chain kind of stuff. Whereas in Detroit and now in Los Angeles, they are more likely to take home run chances. And so what is the thing for Cam Ward that is going to offset the completion percentage? Well, is it the Superman moments? I would say it's the Superman moments ideally, but Superman moments are not a defining trait, I would argue.
Okay, I like where you're going on this. I think it's funny because I think you can defining traits are inside the confines of an offense, like your deep ball shot versus what you're really good at throwing. There's also skill set, right? Cam Ward's release. I would argue Matt Stafford's just physical trait. Like his arm is arguably the strongest in the NFL over the last 10 years, other than maybe Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's
Just
probably faded now, but for 10 years of his prime, he probably had the best arm in the league.
Strongest arm in the league. He's also 6'3", 240. Like it's a big ass dude.
He's got the
but I think what I would put in there, because I think one of the things that, and it's funny going back to covering Stafford coming out of high school, 5-star recruit, number one player in the nation, goes to Georgia, doesn't there was a lot of talk about his like maturity. Matt Stafford coming out, being at Georgia and kind of being a silly frat boy. And, it's nothing that's like bad or whatever, but just like, hey, he's immature. He partied a lot.
He wasn't coming into the league like Peyton Manning.
That's right. And he was there was a little chubbiness there to him. And Cam has lost a little bit of that baby fat in one offseason. But I think he wasn't viewed as this like super cool under pressure guy. Like Will Levis, the opposite of that, right? Will Levis is viewed as very emotional. Sometimes that benefits him. But most of the time in the NFL, that's going to hurt you if you can't handle the highs and the lows. I think one of Cam Ward's defining traits is his ability to stay right here the whole time. If that is, in fact, how he operates, and if, in fact, that's how he functions in critical moments, 3rd and 9 in a fourth quarter, if he's just right here, that's the whole Joe Montana thing. Fourth quarter NFL Super Bowl, he looks over and says, there's John Candy. Like that's
his but ability, Joe Montana read defenses. Like, I think – I agree with you, and I think that's a great trait in Cam Ward, but I don't know that it's a defining trait. I think what this guy was saying, and I agree with his argument, is there's a defining, like more physical characteristic. Johnny Bucks is saying here, may not be popular, but I'm kind of okay on getting Alex Smith. Just need to build a good team around him. And I get what you're saying, and I agree. You can win with Alex Smith, but if with the number one pick in the draft, you get Alex Smith, that's generally a disappointment. You want something that's better than Alex Smith that can rise to the occasion. And Alex Smith was very rarely going to be the reason you won. He could be the reason you didn't lose. Cam Ward, I would say, for being the number one pick in the draft, needs to lift you to wins more often than Alex Smith ever did.
I think that's fair. Alex Smith won a lot of games, just for a lot of games, relatively speaking. All right, quickly here. Johnny Buck says they need a running back, another stud running back. They need a lot of efficiency in the run game to help limit the passing opportunities. I think
Well, that's
every
coming next
quarterback.
year. They're going to rebuild that position, and I think Nick Singleton will probably be the number 2 back on
Yeah.
that team.
Yeah.
Whether I haven't looked ahead at free agency if it's as good as it was this year, or if they'll be drafting high. But they've got other priorities also, starting with left tackle and maybe pass rush.
What should we expect from year 2, Io Manor? Look, he's going to see a large reduction in targets and snaps in a perfect world. That's exactly what I think you should want if you're a Titans fan. But I do think he's been more vocal in the practices. I've seen him at more of a vocal guy. I think he's clearly a starting player right now, caliber player, a low end starting caliber player. I think you can expect him and DK to be better players. Like put yourselves in their shoes. These are guys that had lots of opportunity last year, and they went and drafted Cardinal Tate and signed Wando Robinson. You have to know that you need to come into camp taking major steps forward if you want to continue your NFL career, right?
You're 4-5, and you need to be really good at being 4-5 and try to put pressure on 3, which to me is Ridley, and be ready if and when something goes wrong for any of those guys ahead of you. Ideally, the Titans finally have some depth there. You're usually going to need it. And you're going to get some snaps when the guy ahead of you runs, 30-yard route.
I think you want to give the coaching staff every reason that when Calvin Ridley moves on from this team that they don't need to go replace it with a big asset. You guys you want Cardinal Tate to be good enough to be your number 1. You want Wandale Robinson to be good enough to be your slot. And you want DK and Io Manor to show the coaching staff in the front office that they don't need to address the other position. Yeah. I think that's what you want to do.
Keep developing these depth guys to be behind us. Right. Don't feel like you need to get somebody in front of us.
Sinkers Beverages, everybody, please go check out Sinkers Beverages. Again, apologize about the microphone. That will be fixed immediately. But make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages. They got a really cool event coming up this summer that we're going to tell you about. We don't have all the information just yet, but coming up at Tomato Fest, there's going to be a really cool event. Last year, we did a huge birthday party for Sinkers at Basement East, and there's going to be something similar to that this summer. So stay tuned for what's going on there. Again, just another thing that Sinkers does for the community. When everybody's out there hanging out, they're going to be there and have a presence and support people. So please support them. 5-time liquor store of the year, retail beer fridge of the in the entire city, best beer fridge. You can get East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo Brewing Company, Tennessee Brew Works. You can get all that great stuff right there at Sinkers Beverages. You can search Uber Eats and have them deliver it to you. They got a huge bourbon selection, a huge tequila selection, great wine and champagne experts in there as well. So make sure you go support Sinkers Beverages.
I read Sinkers today with my Sinkers hat.
That's right. Who was it? Terry was asking about that?
Yeah,
he was asking about.
He wanted to know what it was because he figures it's some like, oh my God, there might be a baseball team out there. I don't know. I need to figure that out.
Oh, well, yeah. All right. So, look, make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages. Mitch Trubisky, first time we saw him. There's a couple other players we saw for the first time that we're going to get to in a minute. But Mitch Trubisky looked very good, I thought. In fact, today, because Cam Ward struggled, not because Mitch Trubisky is in some competition, which is already things that are being posted online, which is insane to me. But he looked today, and I don't know how many practices he's had with the team. Know. It sounded like a lot of people on the field were saying like, oh, Mitch coming out here in day 1, having a good time. I'm not trying to quote anybody here, but there was a lot of that kind of chatter with the team. So it felt like it actually could have been his legitimate first practice with the team. He looked like he totally had a feel for the offense. He looked like a very good communicator, in my opinion, with his teammates. He looked like somebody that was doing his best to try to put people in position and, give himself and give other players the best opportunity. Like just a very calm, collected performance. He was the most accurate and the best quarterback in some team drills today, just because Cam Ward had a bad day. I think it was like halfway through practice, and my thought was they're going to have to keep 3 quarterbacks because I think they can't get rid of Levis, and that Trubisky is clearly the number 2 quarterback, not even close, which is not that big of a take here. And that Hendon Hooker is not long for the team. Like that's how I read today.
Someone overheard a great Trubisky conversation with a receiver who he told, hey, You ran a great route on that. You did the right thing. I'm not seeing things yet, and that was totally on me. Keep doing what you're doing. That's exactly what you want from a veteran second stringer who's got some mastery and understanding of the offense. So that's a good thing. In terms of keeping three quarterbacks, I mean, the argument for it is that Levis in value and performance ability should be better than your 53rd guy who's going to be a special teamer and the very last guy at linebacker, receiver, corner.
Yeah.
And you can live without that guy for the first month of the season or whatever, while you continue to wait on a market for Levis. But I would hope the market would emerge earlier than that. I think people expect too much value for Levis. We were joking on the sideline, you and I and Nick, about they play San Francisco early, and Saleh and Shanahan are boys, and it would be a good game to play Levis 3/4. And hey, how about you tell me who your worst corner is, and how about you play him in the fourth on the right side, and I might sneak Bryce Oliver out there against him, and that would give Will a chance to throw a couple TDs and maybe.
Do you think that
get
kind
him
of
on
stuff
Sports
happens?
Center a little bit, huh?
Do you think that kind of stuff happens in the NFL? Really?
I don't know. I mean, there was a time where Fisher and Dungy clearly were in cahoots about timeouts at the end of a game, like that they weren't taking the timeouts because the result was satisfactory or something like that. Certainly in the preseason, I think coaches have stuff like that. Like, hey, we're not going to take the timeouts to extend this game. You don't need to. You can go ahead and kneel. Like, we're not going to take the timeouts to force you to get a first down and stuff like that. I think what I said would be a little extreme, but I certainly don't think Kyle Shanahan gives a shit about preseason results in any way, shape, or form.
No, and they're very close. And if somebody asks you for a favor, I think this is ultimately maybe the most important point here by Brandon, which is because I agree with you. Hopefully, the market, in a perfect world, the market for Will Levis develops quickly in camp. They trade him right away, and it's all clear and easy to decide. You got Cam Ward, you got Mitch Trubisky. That's it, and Hendon Hooker's there as emergency, right? But Brandon asked the question, depending on whether you can dress him or not, I don't know why you wouldn't use Levis in running situations as a package here or there. Now, here is what we did see today, and I guess we can't really get into specifics on this. That's Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky is a good athlete. There were called designed quarterback runs today for Mitch Trubisky that have not really been called for Will Levis. Will Levis is he's a good athlete, but he's a clunky runner. Cam Ward is kind of a clunky runner. Mitch Trubisky is a very fluid runner. If you're going to design plays, you're designing them for Mitch Trubisky.
You can't dress Will Levis as a third. You can't. When you get down to 48, 46, everybody's got a game day role, and you can't waste one of them on a third string quarterback. And he's not allowed to play, by the way. I don't think. You activate him as an extra, or you have him as an extra. I mean, you would really have to sacrifice a spot to activate him in a way that you could use him in that. B, if you have a quarterback up to play him in that situation, you are telegraphing run. Like, if you're telegraphing run, you give the ball to Derrick Henry. You don't give the ball to Will Levis. They don't have Derrick Henry, so I don't think they should telegraph run on anything. But
I think this is what's interesting. I think Mitch Trubisky is a better thrower and runner than Will Levis. I just think he's better at all things quarterback than Will Levis. And so my argument would be that if you wanted to have a package with that in there, you don't always have to run the ball, because Trubisky is good enough to execute on a 50-50 run pass where you're challenging the defense with 50-50. I just think Trubisky is clearly the best athlete and runner of the four quarterbacks on the roster. Like, I don't think it's even close right now.
I haven't paid enough attention, and obviously I wasn't watching Trubisky run today. I liked Levis as a runner. I mean, I had no beef with that element of his game when he was playing. Somebody says, imagine Somebody said, imagine Vrabel coming calling if something happened to Drake May. I'm looking at his backup, which is Tommy DeVito. I would prefer Will Levis to Tommy DeVito.
True. I think not to go too deep into like Brian Daboll's system is going to involve a lot of RPOs and a lot of those types of plays, and I think I I think knowing where to go with the football, creating a pass option threat to the defense off of that run action, I should say. I don't think Levis is a better athlete than Trubisky. It's not an anti-Levis take. I didn't have a problem with his running ability from time to time when he was the quarterback a couple years ago either. I think Mitch Trubisky is a far more fluid player in that role and doing those things than people realize. And again, we saw it today multiple times. So
I'm also fine with Cam Ward just getting the 4 or 6 yards needed for a first down if he pulls the ball down, and not having a lot of designed runs or having an occasional designed run that surprises people. And that they knew when they drafted him, they were not getting a running quarterback.
I want to ask you, so let's talk defense here. Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Make sure you check out paulkuharsky.com as well. I want to ask you about the defensive personnel, and I was talking to Suss about this too on the sideline. I said, how many players on the defense have we not seen like for a single rep? And it's Jeffrey Simmons. We haven't seen Jeffrey Simmons. I think we've seen Amani Hooker like once maybe, or like a couple of team periods maybe. John Franklin Myers has not been out there, I don't think, one time. Cordell Flott has not been out there one time. I don't think Femi Oladejo has been out there one time. I don't think we've seen him one time.
He's been out there, but I don't think he's been out there on team.
So Jermaine Johnson today, part of what made him like an actual story was that he is one of those 5 or 6 guys that has not really been seen on the field yet, much at all. And so now seeing Jermaine Johnson out there and in team creating pressure and forcing errant throws from Cam Ward, I think is a notable development.
Yeah. Broke up a screen and right in front of you and I forced rolling out Cam to throw an inaccurate pass to Alec Iomanor that was over his head in a red zone period. Those are just 2 that I know off the top of my head. He looked impactful, strong, big. So yeah, it was interesting to see him, but you raise a good point about, I mean, they've been missing a lot of players. The tone from in-house has not been as I don't remember how Wyatt wrote it during Callahan's absences. I think he wrote it pretty stand up, like just straight absences under Vrabel, though Vrabel would say, you know, out of one side of his mouth, the guys aren't obligated to be here. And he was a former union guy. But I think at the same time, you know, he wanted guys there.
Sure.
We tend to be harsher attendance takers, though we haven't been harsh here. I mean, I think they should all be here. New system, new team, especially new guys. And all these guys we're talking about. Franklin Myers is new. Flott's new. Who else did we mention there?
Jermaine Johnson is new.
Jermaine Johnson's new.
I think Alontae Taylor's been. I think I've seen him in one or 2.
He wasn't there today, so he's new. So you know, for a lot of new guys not to be there, and I think like again, these aren't that big of a deal. But Carnell Tate is lighting up Micah Robinson. You know, so. Right. Is he doing great most of the time? Yeah. Is he doing it against Micah Robinson, who's not going to, if he's on this roster, that's a problem? Yeah. So you got to, you know, everybody wants to say Carnell Tate scored again, but nobody wants to say the second sentence where like the 2 outside starting corners aren't there, which is a significant thing to tack on.
I think we'll kind of empty the notebook here. I think Carnell Tate, by the way, did look good again, relatively speaking. He had a long touchdown reception down the middle where he split the safeties, I believe. Cam Ward won it.
Micah Robinson.
And Cam Ward actually hit him on that route. I think otherwise he didn't make a ton of big plays in any of those drills. Will Levis, for all of his sort of mistakes, which there were again a few today, he also had two incredible throws down the seam, one into the end zone and one going the other direction, where it was a quick bang bang 2 steps throw, hit somebody in stride down the seam, very accurate. And so I do still think there's reasons to hold on to Will Levis as an asset and try to hope and maximize his value down the road. Anybody else that stood out? I thought Kevin Winston was really good. Just in general, he had an interception today, and I think he's been good and active and rangy in practice all the way across. So anybody else stand out to you?
I thought Ridley's not in team periods. He's still coming back from that broken leg, but I think, and you don't get excited about things on air, but I'm surprised he's accelerating the way he is. And I caught video of one play off the line where I thought showed some shake and ability to accelerate that I wouldn't have thought he would be there on June 8th. So I think they've got to be pretty pleased with where he is at this stage, not knowing the severity of the broken leg. A broken leg's broken.
He looks very fast, very quick. He looks like himself. Hard to overthrow him. It's just hard to overthrow him. Let's see here. Anything on Marcus Harris? Look, he is out there. I mean, right now, Marcus Harris is your starting nickelback. And on this, it's not even, and that's how he's being used by and large. And frankly, he had a couple plays, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, where, I think maybe it was red zone, where he's starting to become more vocal and more confident and more chatty with the receivers, which I think that's a sign of, some growing confidence.
Yeah. Some people ask about Femi. I don't think Femi was there today either. And I don't think he's been in team really when he's been around. So I think he's recovering still or from something. I don't think Jeff's absence has anything to do with contract. And I think it's a mistake not to be around.
I tend to agree with that. All right. Sinkers Beverages and paulkuharsky.com for all your great Titans coverage. Suss and I will be back on Thursday, or it might actually be Friday. We got to figure that out because we'll have a lot of access to players and coaching staff on Thursday. I am curious. We're going to talk a little other version of football here, and you and I are both rooting for the Knicks, and they've brought us back in, and so we'll discuss Game 3 quickly here. Mostly, I just don't. It's just kind of hard to believe that they're up 2-0. It's very surreal to me because when New York is attached to a story like this, the Yankees are. I know you don't want to hear this, but the Yankees are different. The city doesn't react as much to the Yankees because they've won so much. But this is different. I think the Knicks doing this is very, very different. But it certainly brought me and my kids all the way hook and line. We've watched every single tournament game, playoff game last year, every single playoff game this year. If you'd have told 12-year-old me that they have a chance to win a title, I don't think I would have believed you. So pretty excited.
I really dislike the NBA, but I usually do tune into the finals. And, my text chain is from my college buddies is 3 out of the 4 are in the area and never bailed on the NBA and have stuck it out through all this time. So they're giving me a load of shit for getting back in. But I mean,
no. You're a busy man.
What's going on in New York right now is just I would
cool.
love to just be in the city. And look, I don't like the product overall very much, but I love the certainty that NBA fans have. And I was told, that they just had no chance, especially against the winner of OKC and the Spurs, that they just were, the West just outclasses the East, and that the Knicks had no chance by people that are big NBA fans who just know everything about the NBA. And so I'm loving that they couldn't be more wrong. I mean, there's no way San Antonio's getting out of this. There's no way they're winning tonight in that environment. It's just not possible.
Stop talking like that. What are you doing?
I don't believe in any of this jinx BS. Look, and I think people are really stupid that they can't see that while San Antonio has a great collection of young players right now, not a team the same way the Knicks are a team.
No, they're not.
Look, quintessential contrast to that.
Hart, Bridges, and Brunson have like played together for like 10 years
Yeah.
in college too. That you just can't kill them, man. Like, look, I understand if you don't like Jalen Brunson's style, if you play against him, right? If you're a fan of the Spurs or the Celtics or whatever the Cavs, like I understand if you don't like the type of player that he can be, but you just can't kill him. And I think it's a very likable team. Karl Anthony Towns, as a Tennessee guy who thinks he's very lazy on defense, he's an elite offensive player. But even his story with his mother passing away, like even that's a likable element to all this. OG Anunoby is a really likable player. Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges are two players that I liked at Villanova going back a decade ago. It's a very likable team, and I never thought I'd ever find a group, because even that Latrell Sprewell, Charlie Ward, Marcus Camby, like even that team was fun to watch. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing Charlie Ward since then. One of the nicer guys you'll ever interview as a Heisman Trophy winner and a guy who played in the NBA Finals. I didn't think anything would ever come close to Ewing, but this team is pretty likable basketball team. And here, watch how I do this. Watch this transition into the World Cup, PK. Here's what's fascinating to me. If you are walking around in Manhattan, of course we are not, but if you're walking around in Manhattan, the biggest of sporting event in the world is supposed to culminate in not Manhattan, but in New York in less than a month. A product that you and I love dearly in the World Cup. And it's not even it can't even be top of mind right now with the Knicks. The Knicks have probably captured every ounce of World Cup attention that is supposed to be in New York, I imagine. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know
this
what your
thing could
friends
be
say.
over Wednesday, and the cup doesn't start till Thursday, so it might well make way for it. I don't buy what Ed Henry's saying here. No offense to the Yankees, but New York's a basketball town at its core. I lived in Central Jersey until I was 18. I went to college and grad school for 5 years in New York, and the Knicks were not bad at that stage. The Yankees have won 27, 28 World Series. Those parades down the Canyon of Heroes for the Yankees. When the Yankees are in the World Series, New York is a baseball town, and it happens pretty often, though it hasn't happened in a while. Yeah, the Knicks have done it twice in recent history. In my lifetime, have been to the finals. So it's not more of a basketball town than a baseball town. I don't buy that.
Well, I think. Oh, that's interesting.
It's
I
fine.
think
I mean, it's going to be a basketball town now, and God bless it.
sure.
And certainly, listen, there's New York. The thing about New York is it's big enough to be a baseball and a basketball.
Yeah.
And when the Rangers are going, it's a hockey town. And when the Giants are going, it's a football town. It's got room to be an everything town.
I do think there's a blue collar element to the Knicks and the Mets that the Yankees don't always necessarily enjoy. That I think, and I think it's more about it being so rare. Like, to your point, 27 World Series championships or whatever. Like, they had 4 World Series. Didn't the Yankees have 4 World Series wins in between the two trips for the Knicks?
4 and 5 years.
Like, they went in 94, they went in 99, the Knicks. They haven't been since. The Mets have been to 2015 and 2000 to the World Series, and then went in 86 before that. I think it's the scarcity that drives the passion around the Knicks. And it's, frankly, you mentioned the Giants and the Rangers. There are 2 hockey teams. I know Long Island is far away, but there are 2 hockey teams, and there are 2 football teams, and there are 2 baseball teams. There's 1 basketball team, and I'm not counting Brooklyn Nets. I'm not counting that.
I mean, if you're counting the other 2 for everything, you got to count the 2 for back.
Well, how far away was Jersey for those years, though? Like, how far away was it? Was in, where was their arena? Newark?
It was at the Meadowlands. So it was right next to Giants Stadium.
Okay, so it's close enough. Okay, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm wrong. So you would call it a 2 basketball town for most of
It's
your.
a 2 everything town, except
Okay.
2 everything.
All right, fair enough. All right, World Cup here quickly. I know you and I care deeply about this stuff, and so hopefully you all are with us on that. How did the O line look today? No idea. We could talk about
D line. There's no real physicality and no pads. Ask us during camp.
Yeah, that's right. It's hard. It's impossible to know what happened. Here's what I'll say: Are you any more optimistic about the U.S.'s chances in this World Cup, not to win anything, but to just call it a successful tournament, after watching the win over Senegal and a relatively, I don't know, a moral victory against Germany in a
No,
loss over the weekend? I
that's
don't know what you
nothing.
call that.
I am optimistic about the United States chances for this reason. They've expanded the tournament and they've watered it down. So it's easier to advance. And then you're advancing not to a round of 32, but a round of what? 40, whatever.
No, it's
So
32. It's 32, but you don't get this. It's six. Everyone, teams like the United States are guaranteed, not guaranteed, but are gifted a much easier initial knockout game.
they'll advance and they'll have an easier opponent. And so I think for them to have a successful cup, they have to advance and they have to win that first knockout game. And I think they'll do those things. But this is not a good enough team. For the first time in my lifetime, we don't have a good goaltender. The United States always has a good goaltender. I fear
It's
that.
true.
Chris Richards, who the Ringer ranked as our most important player, is hurt as a central defender. We're going to die without him. Our captain is like 48 years old and the slowest player in the tournament. I also don't understand how he's the captain. Tim
Why,
Reed.
why, why is Tyler Adams or Weston McKinney or Christian Pulisic not the captain?
I don't know. I
Mhm.
thought Adams did a fine job, but
Yeah.
there's something for Pochettino here. So listen, the U.S. for the first time ever is better offensively than it is defensively. You have to finish your chances if that's the case. And while we're better offensively, we don't finish our chances. And we need to win games 3-2, 2-1. That's a tall order. So I fear 2-2 draws, 2-1 losses.
Well, Paraguay lost their top striker. Turkey has a really aggressive offensive attack. So there's a chance that they lose one to Turkey potentially in the group stage. But I think
We've
heavy
got the
favorite.
counter. We've got the counter and
Yeah,
finish.
that's right. That's right. Heavy favorites against Paraguay and I think Australia. Although Australia in the midfield is pretty salty. I think Turkey's offensive attack is real dangerous, but to your point, you can counter on that. The format of the league, the format of the tournament, going to 48 teams where 32 are going to advance, which means some third place teams are going to advance out of group stage. I think eight
Also
of them
32
actually.
instead of 16. That's mine.
So it goes from 16 to 32, where normally you'd get to the first knockout game and you'd just be like, let's hope we got a matchup where we can
And
outplay
usually you're
somebody.
finishing second if you're the U.S.
That's
You're
right.
drawing the first
That's
place
right.
team out of another group, and
That's
it's somebody
right.
elite.
So now you're probably a first place team drawing a second or third place team. So you should win one knockout round. The way I would define success is, are they going to win the second knockout game, which is
They
the round of
probably
16. That round of 16 is where they lost to the Netherlands in 2022. That is the round. Where they've lost every
once beat
game.
Mexico there in South Korea. They beat Mexico in that round. That was the pinnacle
Right.
of what we've done in modern times.
So is that too high of a bar to ask? Two wins in the knockout on home soil? On home soil?
I don't expect it. I don't think we'll play good enough defense. I'm not convinced the goaltender will come up with big enough stops, and I don't think we'll finish often enough. But I'm perfectly happy to be surprised.
Yeah, I am expecting to advance out of the group stage and to win. I think your expectations should be to get out of the group and to win a knockout. And then it's sort of like
Hopefully a good matchup.
all
Hopefully a
bets
good
are off. That's
matchup.
right. Like that's not even the best. That's not even an elite German team that we played. Like they don't have Carl. He got hurt. That's not. That's more of a top 10 German team, not a top 5 German team. So they need to do well in the
I
group.
thought we got too much credit for that 2-1 loss, and just again, it's another one of those things. You go against a excellent European team with European history that's won World Cups, and their precision versus our imprecision shows. We did better possessing the ball, but still, the giveaway factors we're just too loose giving away the ball compared to you see what they do, where they can just hold the ball, and we can't.
Yeah. I do think so. They gave up a goal. If you don't care about any of this stuff, the USA gave up a goal in the first 90 seconds of that match. I think actually from that minute to about 60 minutes where they made a bunch of changes and kind of swapped out starters, I actually do think they were on par with Germany for that stretch of time. Now, this is not an elite German team, as I said. It's a very good German team. They're a top 10 team in the world. I thought that was the part that was the reason people are being positive, is that they didn't look outmatched in that 60 minutes. And I think that's where you kind of go, okay, if you can do that against Germany, then you should handle your business in the group stage and maybe you can win a couple knockout games.
If you're peeking in on this, don't take the broadcasts at their word. because they got a vested interest in the U.S. being good. So I would just advise you, like, if you're buying in, do some reading on top of listening to what people
Yeah.
are saying, because the Ringer or the Athletic are going to be more candid about what we
Club
really
and
are
Country, the
than
Club
the
and
broad
Country podcast.
Club and Country.
Club and
Because
Country podcast, 615 Soccer with Ben Wright and the guys,
even
Pharmaceutical
on the
Soccer.
Senegal game, where we had some very good play, I thought the broadcasters just really oversold our quality, because they want everybody in watching and thinking that we've got hopes, and we do have hopes, but
It's okay. Like, look, the Pulisic Pepe combination was very active against Senegal. Pulisic getting off the schneid was a big deal. Hadn't scored in 2026 since then.
let's keep
So
them
we'll
healthy.
see.
Keep them healthy.
We'll see. That's right. Let's see. So either way, it's one of the coolest sporting events ever. It's super excited. My kids
He
are
and I
bought
are
into it
both
now for
thinking
the first
about sneaking down to Atlanta for a match. He's willing to spend more
time.
than I am. I'm going to go to the cheapest match in Atlanta, maybe.
Well, I'm trying to make it memorable for my 8-year-old who loves Lamine Yamal, and Spain plays in Atlanta. So if you can watch the best player in the world, maybe with the best team in the
Top
world,
three guy.
4 hours away, that's a pretty rare thing to go see. So
Once in a
having
lifetime.
seen Lamine Yamal in person in Barcelona last year, it's worth the price of admission. That's
I've been to World Cup games in America before, actually one as a fan, but several for work in Washington, D.C.
That's
in,
cool.
in the 1990s. But if there's a game in Atlanta and the price dips to like 200, which I think it will, on a random Wednesday during my downtime, I might.
Hey, if you're going alone, will you text me? All right.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll do it.
We'll do it.
I control the music in the car.
Oh God, no. All right, I'm not going. We're not listening to 9 hours straight of live Springsteen from the tour of '77. That's not what we're doing.
Not 9 hours.
All right, everybody. Sinkers Beverages, we do appreciate you guys again. Once again, apologize for the technical difficulties on the equipment here on the microphone, but thank you guys all so much for being here. Please rate, review, subscribe, and subscribe on the YouTube page, paulkarski.com as well. Please do that there. I think that's about it. We'll be back later this week. Please enjoy all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network. For Paul, I am Braden. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you next time.
Cheers.